the porch, and I forget the exact phrase, but we'll get to it, where you were saying through executive functioning, it wasn't just movement, it was like a cognitive challenging movement.
Yeah. It has to have movement that also challenges them to think.
Okay, so that right there made me think even more of exactly what I do in my colleague class, right? And just because it's more of a mental workout for most people, right? You can make it more, it can be more physical.
I see, yep, I see
where we're going, okay.
I do, and can I just,
Yep.
Add to that? So being that we had a Taekwondo background, right? Forms were kind of a little bit of that cognitively challenging thing. That was more sequencing and memory, right?
Yeah,
but once you got it, you got it. But yeah, what people do love about Kali, and the reason that it's really good for seniors as well, is it does challenge you to think in the moment. You can't just memorize a pattern. So that's what I was getting at. That's how it's different than a form. You memorize a form once, you've got it. There's nobody coming in trying to kick you in the face while you're memorizing, Pao Chung or I Chung or whatever they were at the time. But Kali, there is some memorization to the patterns, right? But it's still cognitively challenging because you're working with a partner. Yeah, I get it. I love it. Go ahead.
Okay, so.
I smell what you're cooking.
Yeah. So learning those patterns are one thing, and we talk about some of the traditional martial arts. Kali, there is patterns, of course, but the progression of learning is first you learn the pattern, that's your solo practice, right? Practice at home. The next level is partner drills or contact drills, where now you have a partner, you're working on timing and some of your accuracy and things like that. But really when it comes to application, now you're improvising, right? You have to now improvise right there on the spot in the moment and react to what is given to you instead of, oh, this is a memorization thing. Now, but I want to just go deeper because...
Can I give you the word for that?
Go ahead.
Cognitive flexibility.
There we go.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's part of executive function, is working memory, it's inhibitory control, and it's cognitive flexibility. So that's the part that you're talking about.
So in some of our training, we have some pretty extensive training that we do, these mastery camps. We get up at 4 a.m., we start training from 5, and we go until 9 or 10 at night. It's really all day long. And the physical part is just part of it, but the biggest part is the mental breakdown, and people, they say their brains are just like jelly because of what it is we're doing or what it is we're practicing. And anyways, I guess what I want to say is, when you've talked about doing that, having a challenging cognitive exercise with the physical, I can't think of anything more powerful than that. Doing Kali. It's because you're physical, but you're using your right and left feet, right and left hand. Sometimes you're stepping right and striking left. And there's just such a mix of all body motions happening together at all times. It seems to be a very powerful answer to the problem you're trying to solve.
Yeah, so this is, executive functioning for adults, because you don't just build the skill as a child and then you're good. And that is one of the first things as an older adult, as a senior, when you start to see a cognitive decline, the first thing to go is their executive functioning skills, right? It's the last thing the kids build, because first you're building your instincts and things like that, and then you're building things through the body. That's what I talk about with kids. And then once that's unlocked, you get your higher level thinking, your executive function. As an adult, in your later years in life, as a kid, it's the last thing to be built. As an adult, it's the first thing to go.
Okay.
So as an older adult, finding an activity like Kali is so, so important, because the more you can work on those executive functioning skills and keep them sharp, the less you have to worry about a decline, right? It just keeps you sharp and ready. And I do know, just a little plug for Kali as well, from you're talking about the comparison, there's other things that look like Kali and that have similar type movements, but they don't have the footwork. And so Kali having the hand motions, working with different tools, right? Sometimes it's empty hand, sometimes it's a blade or a puño, like the handle, and sometimes it's a long stick. All of those also take what is a pattern, which is your working memory, and now makes you adapted to something else. So you're multi-layering executive function in your Kali practice. And that's what makes it.
Can I give you a term? In Kali, we call that the transfer of technology.
Okay. But that's what, in our opinion, right, makes Kali superior as a form of learning, is for sure executive function done well and done right. And one of the things that I'll say, and I tell you this all the time when we're talking about your trainings and stuff. A lot of times the teachers, the practitioners, the masters, they're very poverty mindseted, and in that what I mean is they think more is more value. I'm going to give them more technique, more, so that they think I'm valuable and that this training is valuable.
I think we got to hold that for another video because that's another 20-minute talk.
It is, but I just want to say, knowing what the brain can hold is called cognitive load, right? Knowing what the brain can hold, when you practice something, anything beyond 10 minutes is essentially lost. So these hours and hours and hours of training the same thing seem like really valuable, but in essence, unless you give breaks where the brain can organize and to kind of offload that and be ready again, it's just more is more, not more is better. And that's my little seed that I plant for those who are planning trainings, is to break that up, because people are not walking away with everything you're teaching them. They're walking away with one, maybe two good things, and the rest is essentially lost. And it doesn't have to be that way. So we will do another talk about, training and how it needs to be less is more, not more is more, and getting away from that. But yeah, Kali is amazing.
So I do want to add, because you had mentioned about the footwork, but there's definitely some proof to it, because we host seminars and people come to our school. Most of our students, and some people travel, and we do have a cousin, he comes and he trains at another school locally in Pittsburgh.
Kali cousin,
that's right.
I
Now,
like that.
he does do another Filipino martial art, whatever it's called, Arnis or Escrima.
Yeah.
And he had said he always makes the comment that the biggest difference is the footwork and the body positioning that we do is his biggest challenge, because in his particular style or system, the footwork really isn't, I don't want to say there, or they have to have some footwork, but it's not emphasized.
Right.
So, anyways, there's definitely proof. I've got a person who's a high-ranking student in another Filipino martial arts that can back your statement.
Well, who knows? Maybe I'll do a research project on the cognitive effects of Kali in adults, especially in older individuals. That would be a great study, because one of the things that they tell older adults is, oh, go find movement, and so they push them into things like Tai Chi, right? Tai Chi and things like that, they are great for stress relief. What does it work? It works your working memory, right? But you're only working one part of executive function. You're not working, when you're doing Tai Chi, you don't have to worry that somebody's going to accidentally poke you in the eye with a stick if you're not careful. Yeah. You know what I mean? So there's not a lot of cognitive flexibility.
Well, if you do
impulse control. Hold on, because I know I've worked with partners. You put something in their hand, especially if they're new, they get excited with those sticks. They want to whack those sticks, and you're like, dude, whoa, hold on. Like we don't need to like break each other's sticks. So Tai Chi is great, but it's not going to work on impulse control, and it's not going to work on cognitive flexibility because you don't have a partner trying to crack you in the head, right? Not that I want to like scare people off of Kali. You have partners and we're careful with each other, but there is that element that you have to be careful and your partner has to be careful. So there's these other layers that make it wonderful, right? Just make it so good for that kind of thing. So you have anything else you want to?
Yeah. So
we might need to break this up into.
Well, I just want to go on. You talked about doing a research study on, using Kali and the executive functioning with all of this. It would be greatly appreciated throughout the Kali world, and I'll tell you why, because we have a very close friend that actually has a program already that he's trying to teach older people.
Chris?
Yeah, I was going to say his name.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, he's doing something, he calls it silver sticks. I think it's wonderful.
In Florida, but now if you actually have physically backed truth to it.
Oh, yeah.
Or now we could share that with him where he's like, well, this research says that.
Yeah, you could take that into, there goes my marketing brain, right? But you could take that into like hospital systems and like, once you have science behind it, you've changed the game. And that, and that's why I went back to school to get my doctorate, because we have seen 30 years of something working. We've seen it. We know it in our hearts. You can't tell me that what I do with 4 to 6 year olds is not the most ultimate thing that can help them. And now, I guess as I'm getting older, I'll get a little more mouthy. I'm just going to start saying it. It's better than just a sport alone. It is superior for many different reasons I go over in other videos. It's superior because of what we're doing, the way we're doing it, and the teachers knowing what we're doing, right? You may find that little diamond in the rough in another sport, and if you do, that's a needle in a haystack and a 1 in a million, and congratulations. But as a rule, it's not there. So you can't tell me after 30 years that what I'm doing and what you're doing is not the best thing for kids' cognitive abilities, that pairs with learning, that transfers over into their classroom and school environment at home, if the parents actually put the effort into it. It's got to be a partnership. But you can't tell me that. So, but having the science behind it, right? People be like, oh, well, they're biased, right? Having science behind it where I can actually do scientific research and I'm getting published, you can't argue with that. You can't argue. You can, but you better show me a study that you've done that contradicts what I've done, right? It's just another layer of I want the proof because I know that what we're doing works.
And we already have testimony. I have testimony from
I know, but that's not proof. So that's in the scientific world, that's called anecdotal proof. It's not
Okay,
proof.
we'll have anecdotal proof. And that's still proof.
Anecdotal proof.
If I have students, I have people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s already telling me after a few months that they feel younger and they feel better and more alert.
Right, I know, but you can tell somebody a story and they're like, oh, that's nice. Or you can show them a study and say, look, this percentage got increases in this, and this. And that compared to, I'd like to compare it to something else and then have a control group as well. Numbers don't lie, right? They say people lie, but numbers don't lie. Numbers can be manipulated to lie. That's a disclaimer, but, I would like to have that study too. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it. It doesn't have to be super long, but it would be nice to follow people for a year, and be able to do that. So.
Well, having both, of course, is good, but somebody's word and somebody saying something that anecdotal, or how do you say
Anecdotal. There's a C in there.
Anecdotal. It's very powerful, especially if it's somebody you know and you like them and you trust them and they tell you, I feel it.
That's why word of mouth is the most powerful
Yeah.
marketing you can get. But I want the evidence. I want the evidence so I can be like, bam, here it is. You know, it's not just what I say. So this is what I could be like, don't believe me, believe the science. Right? Right? As we say, follow the science, believe the science. So here you go. Here's the science. This is what it says. And, you know, I already have other studies in my head planned of like, not just the one that I want to submit for my actual dissertation is going to be numbers based. That's called quantitative. It's going to be statistical. But I also have in my mind a secondary study that I want. They're called qualitative. And that's where you do interviews and surveys and things like that. And then you pull patterns from that of what have parents seen, what have teachers seen, you know, and then you can pull patterns from that to also as a backup or like, you know, more proof or whatever. So, yep.
There we go.
Good. All right.